challenge we've got is that the associations are they're not necessarily keeping up with technology. We've got a couple of examples. So an example with the requirement of two-line telephones in rooms. Realistically, it's not something that's needed in the hospitality space anymore. Guests come with their own telephone. In most cases, 90-95% of guests carry their own telephone. This requirement for two-line telephone in the room disappears. And another recent example that we've had is the requirement for the guest directory, so printed collateral in the room. We're looking at putting a hotel with all of the guest menus in many languages on an iPad type device. But the association standards say that you must have printed collateral in the room, and you can actually be marked down on your LQA scoring. Is that right? I don't think so in today's world. So I think as hotels and hoteliers, we must keep introducing the technology and the brand standards, but we have to be aware that there are association standards out there, and we have to take a risk in some areas as to whether we implement the brand standards or whether we say, okay, printed collateral is something we're just going to have to put in the room, and we have to live with it. So it's a difficult decision to make at the moment, but I think with technology evolving, we have to we as hoteliers have to make the decision that we think is right for our guests. And I think sometimes the association standards need updating, and it would be good for us as hoteliers to get that message across to the people making the decisions on the standards, saying, okay, please evolve a little bit. Free Wi-Fi, it's a question that's been going on for at least 5 years. I personally think that in a hospitality or in a hotel, it's not a simple matter of putting up a single access point. The argument's always been, well, in Starbucks, for example, you have free Wi-Fi. It's easy to do it in a scenario such as that. You have a single access point, everybody can connect. In a hotel, it's a much more dynamic environment, and the approach we're taking is that it has to be right. The internet access has to be high speed, it has to be reliable, it has to be intuitive to the guest, and there's an investment required to do that. So we take the freemium approach, where we will put in a certain amount of bandwidth that's free to the guest, and if the guest then would require more bandwidth and they want to consume a lot of more bandwidth, then we look at a charge being passed across to the guest. So it's almost a consumption-based model that we're looking at the moment. Ultimately, will it be free? Possibly, but not in all geographic locations. It's still today very expensive to run internet bandwidth into remote locations, island locations, and you can't realistically give guests 2 meg of bandwidth for every guest into a location where you can actually only run a 2 meg pipe. So I think in certain locations you're always going to have a requirement to charge or limit bandwidth to the guests. I think trying to be sure of anything in 8 years' time in technology is something very difficult to predict. The technology that's around today didn't exist. Some of it didn't exist 8 years ago, and I think potentially technology that will be prevalent in guest rooms in 8 years' time doesn't yet exist. I think if we start looking in some of the areas where there's some developments, the likes of electronic paper may well play a significant part into the hotel room. I think potentially the ability to use glass as a display panel, using shutters for windows, display on mirrors. I think that sort of technology will start to come. But what guests will be bringing with them, Apple devices in 8 years' time. I mean, their roadmap for 3 years' time's not yet been decided. So something in 8 years' time that the consumer will be using and bringing. But I think again, the challenges that we have today, which is trying to enable the guest's own devices that they're bringing today, we will have that challenge with whatever technology they're going to be bringing in 8 years' time into the room. Again, I think it's very difficult. I think perhaps we'll see the next generation of super high definition TVs, and I think again the emergence of organic LED. We're starting to see the prices come down now, so I think organic LEDs will play a part. The price will come down significantly. So again, we'll be facing the challenges of integrating the guest's own devices that they're going to be bringing into the TV world. We'll certainly see flatter, thinner, cheaper, bigger TVs, but again, I think possibly the likes of integrating the TV into the glass panel will certainly play a part. I also think we'll start seeing the emergence of wireless electricity and wireless charging, and potentially using the TV for being the base for wireless electronic devices in the room. So it's difficult to predict in 8 years' time.